What's up? What's up? Hey guys, we're gonna let everybody join in for a minute. But as you join in, I got a special request tonight. I want you to comment 10K Crappie Connection in your comments. Let us know you're out there watching, and we're just gonna give everybody a couple minutes to join in, jump on.
Hashtag.
Yeah, there you go. Hashtag 10K Crappie Connection. Let us know when everybody's on there, and we'll get this party started here in just a few minutes. I see three people jumping on. Come on, guys, comment. Let's see them.
See if I can get on here. There we are. Yo, yo.
Hey, David, come on with it.
There we are. Sweet.
We'll get some people cranked up in here.
Hey, this
comment get on here. 10K Crappie Connection. Love to see some comments, guys. It helps us out. Helps everybody jump on in here. Johnny.
Here they come.
They coming on in here. There you go.
Good evening, Paul. Good evening. Hey, this was going to work here, guys. We're going to keep it clear all night. Fingers crossed.
Oh, man.
We had a rough patch last week.
Yeah, last week, guys, it was an internet deal. Hopefully, we got that solved at the moment. Seen them working down the road on the internet today, so hopefully that's not going to be an issue.
We got somebody 10K Crappie Connection there.
Yeah.
Terry Walker.
Corey, Flint, Matt, Steve. What's up, Drew? I just did a short that I released at TikTok and also on with Drew Scott, and he's talking about keeping your jigs. So that's a real cool thing as well.
Johnny, it has been chilly, man. It's been chilly. It's like we keep switching from fall to summer, never really getting stuck in the right pattern, are we?
Yeah, that's right.
What was it today where you were at?
Cold.
Yeah.
I think in the mid-50s, wind blowing out of southeast, about 10 to 18, I guess you would say.
It wasn't cold then.
Yeah, it was cold. We'll give a couple more minutes. We're up to 92. We'll hit 100. We'll kick this party started. Scott England. Come on, guys. Let's see some more of those 10K Crappie Connection out there.
He keeps forgetting to say hashtag before that 10K. Hashtag 10K Crappie Connection.
I even got some very special news about Dustin tonight that I'm going to share with everybody. He don't even know it yet.
Oh, what do you got going on?
I have been planning this just for you, Dustin. I cannot wait to reveal it.
This is good. We'll see. Yeah, now I'm excited. Look, we all learning something today. And if y'all catch me with a little southern accent or kind of dragging my words a little too far, blame Brad. I was in Mississippi for 2 weeks, and they done rubbed off on me. You know what I'm saying? You know, look here. You know what I'm saying here? Huh?
Hey, everybody. Larry, Bud, Daryl, Kyle. Seeing those 10K Crappie Connection hashtags come up. Keep them rolling. Barry's a client of mine that comes down and go crappie fishing with me. I think we fished about 2 weeks ago.
Brian asked how was the res, Dustin? Brian, the res is amazing. I never got a real nice weather day except for an evening, just a couple hours while Brad was pulling. So I got to see some pulling for the first time. That was awesome. They were catching them good. But top 5 lakes. I never even got a good day of fishing, and that goes down in top 5 lakes. As far as numbers of good quality fish, that's top 5. I've never seen that many fish. It seemed like anywhere you dropped your trolling motor, there was some fish to be caught. So super awesome. But golly, that weather, you're at Mother Nature's mercy there. So that was a tough part there. As far as it's just hard to hide. Brad finds ways out of it, but golly, it'd be stressful to sit there and fight all the weather that comes there all the time with the wind.
You know, just even keep back what Dustin's saying there is that morning before we hit the lake, his first time on the lake, he did a post on Facebook, I believe it was, and said, rest in peace, Chris.
Yeah, it showed me, didn't it?
It showed him real quick like that.
I was spitting water out of my mouth trying to ride across there to keep up with Brad and his client. I literally was just eating water first thing in the morning right after that post. So that lake taught me a little bit of a lesson. By golly, we found some fish though. and caught some nice ones. But man, it just had to show me a little bit of respect.
Yeah. Just show you who's boss. Appreciate everybody hitting that hashtag 10K Crappie Connection. It helps us, guys. It helps keeps this thing on the tracks. And appreciate everybody watching tonight, taking time out. Got some real cool stuff that I want to talk about tonight, and some of the things I have seen this week that that's pretty unique. Today I seen it again, but I've seen it 3 or 4 different times this winter, and or during the cold that really screams to me that I want to talk about tonight. But I'm gonna kick it out. Dustin, with your today's bite, and then I'm gonna hear some of your guys as well.
Yeah, y'all start telling us how your all fishing's going. Let's see, which one do I want to go with? I would say the old res, but you're going to cover that one. So I just got home Friday night, and then Saturday and Sunday was just, the weather was not to par at all. So Sunday we spent the day shed hunting and found some really good sheds. The wife found a couple nice ones, and one of the better evenings I've ever had. But fishing wise, my last trip was in Mississippi, so it was just what we like to do here. What was cool about being south in Mississippi like that was you get to chase the spawn. Is what I was telling the wife. Was it's like it's not ready here yet, so if you just go about 5-6 hours that way, you start getting fish that are getting really close to spawning. These fish are still deep and not quite doing their thing, not even close, really. High 40s water temp, low 50s, but it just seemed like the fish were way more fired up, a lot more aggressive, and they're starting to roll in those creek channels, just staging up to spawn, and that's some of my favorite fishing. So the last pair of clients I had, we just jumped in a channel out of the wind because, like I told you, the res is an unbelievable monster of the wind. Thank goodness Brad has some protected south wind banks and stuff, so we jumped in the channel and started messing them up. I mean, at the first in the morning, we kind of learned, both of us, that them fish would start sucking to the bottom. And I don't know if it's because overnight it just got a lot colder or what it was, but it just seemed like they sucked to the bottom, the sun come out, and they feel a lot better, started feeling good and pop up. And when they popped up, it was like all at once, you just start popping fish, and you notice a huge difference. I noticed it the first day, and he was telling me like it's because they were on the bottom the first half. Because I was like, man, I found them, but what really happened was they came up.
Yeah.
So I learned that with the clients that second day. We just stayed after them. Finally, those fish pulled up, and we left with a heck of a mess. Cooler plumb full of fish, a couple 2-pounders, and just chasing roaming fish. It was single fish, one person at a time, and they weren't super spooky, but one or two would have weird little attitudes. So you just got to keep moving on because there was enough fish there. There was more 10 to 12 inch fish in that dang lake. Oh my gosh. It does remind me of Grand, just not in the schooling aspect, just good. Every single fish, we were calling them butterballs, but their bellies were so stinking fat. It reminded you a lot of Grenada, just not the huge hubcap size, but the bellies. I mean, they had Grenada bellies on them. They're stuffed plumb full of shad. If the fish wasn't crapping when you pulled it in the boat, it was dropping eggs. So that's about as fun as it gets for me. That's some of my favorite time. We just jumped in the channel and finished a great day, and then I rolled home. So
kind of kick back with Dustin, and last week I really noticed in the beginning of every morning, and I noticed it again this morning, is these fish actually start out, especially after this cold front, right on the bottom of the lake, and I'm talking anywhere from 12 foot of water all the way to 20 foot of water.
Yeah.
These fish are hover down right on the bottom, and as the sun gets up, they actually rise up. And now they're not going to get extremely shallow, but it seemed to me the last week they've been coming about a foot to about 2 or 3 feet off the bottom and hovering and going to different areas. Another thing that I really noticed about them this week is, for me, if you have boat slap on your boat, and what I'm talking about is if the waves is hitting your boat enough for it to actually slap that water surface, those fish can feel it, hear it. I'm not exactly sure, but if they hear that boat slap, especially I'm talking about those 2-pound plus fish,
you're better quality fish for sure.
Another thing that I've noticed, and especially this wintertime, that I've never really noticed ever in my life before, and with the aid of live sonar, I see it, and I'm starting to really recognize it more. and I'll let it out of the bag, is if I come across an area and it's just loaded with shad, the crappie are on the outside edges of it every time I have seen it this winter. From the north side of this lake to the middle side of this lake to the southern half of this lake. Dustin, this past Friday, or was it Thursday?
I don't know, probably Thursday.
Thursday or Friday, he was down here fishing one of the days, and we fished the south end of the lake, and we fished actually some portions of Pelahatchie Creek. He fished that, and I fished another area, and I come back and I checked that area again today. Same stretch he fished last week,
Yeah,
and we were talking about it, but today shad were everywhere.
Yeah, see, and that's crazy between a couple of days, because the shad were not everywhere the day I found them. So it's just crazy how that stuff changes like that.
You know, and I noticed it in a couple of different times this wintertime as well. If I have areas that is extremely packed with shad, I can always seem to find crappie on the outside edges of those areas. Years ago, when we would pre-fish with side imaging and down imaging, and I talked about it before when it even came with traditional sonar stuff, is that I always looked for balls of shad that were really tight together and grouped. And I love to send that report, Travis, and we'll get to you. I like that.
Yeah.
But on my regular sonar, my down scan and my side scan, I would never fish areas, and now I really understand probably better why, that has shad really loose across the screen. And it's coming in to play so much this wintertime for me, is that if I'm finding an area that's just loaded with shad, I'm going to start working the outside of those areas, and I find crappie every single time. And if you're looking for a piece of advice from somebody that gets to fish a lot, pretty blessed, is look for areas on the outside of these giant areas of shad, and you will find crappie. Probably the easiest way to find them for me at this point.
No doubt. Because what they do is they'll sit off that edge like that, and then when they're hungry, they'll just slide over and get them a bite to eat and pop back out. Yeah. Carlos said same on Grenada, that he fishes outside of the edge of the shad groups. Carlos, I want to know where the shad are in Grenada, brother. I was there a week guiding there as well, and I think all those crappie ate all the shad.
Yeah,
no, you know, absolute blast. I was telling you all about Grenada, and I did spend a week there, guided all the way up to the tournament, and had an absolute blast. And you're talking about boat slap. Oh my goodness! I'd say if we caught 500 fish that week, 450 of them was running from the boat when we caught them. I don't know if my boat just had terrible slap, what they're used to or what, but if you wanted a trophy fish, you was chasing it. There's no doubt. Especially tournament fish. If you wanted a big one, you were running it down, and you would almost see like, there's a good one, about 20, 25 foot mark. There it would go, and you'd have to crank it up and run it down. A lot of my clients that are watching this will know exactly what I'm talking about. They'll run circles. They are just different there. But if you get it in front of them while they're running, they will hit it. So y'all keep that in mind going there in the spring. You think all these fish are spooking, don't be afraid to crank it up and chase one down. Hold that bait out in front of it, and then finally, if you meet that bait up across its path while it's swimming away, it's going to turn up and eat that. So little advice on that.
Another thing that I want to talk about that I've seen a lot in the, I guess this session or today's bite really topic. I want to, one of the things to talk about is how to adjust to these big cold front conditions. And my number one thing is, and I had clients yesterday, and we got on the boat, and it was 27 degrees, cold, and was patience. It was believing in what we're doing. And those guys looked at me about 9:30 and was like, man, what's going on? And I was like, just give it a little time. Don't give up, and we'll get them. And we eventually got them. But the number one thing, especially in the springtime, and a lot of these guys that are actually out there watching, Carlos and some Matt England and some of the other guys on here watching as well will testify to me, is that spring is a hard time to fish. It's probably the hardest time to crappie fish. And when you get on the body of water, don't forget, keep focused, but change things up. I bet you on the front of my boat last week, most days I would have to go through 6 or 7 profiles, 6 or 7 colors, and it might have been just the time of day thing. I'm not going to say I know 100% exactly what it was, but my mindset was I'm going to keep throwing things at them, keep trying some different things until I see the reaction I want from these fish. And, you know, you hear a lot of guys on comments, and they'll ask me as well, and I'm sure Dustin, is what do you do when fish won't commit?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a good question on here. A lot we get answers.
Yeah, it gets asked a lot, and my number one thing is I keep changing things up until they will commit. I know I'm not doing something exactly right at that point if they won't commit to bite.
That's right.
So change up some profiles, change up how you're pitching the bait to them, change up the color. I think we've gotten the mindset as a crappie fishing group of guys and ladies is that we only need one particular bait and that's completely everything. It's just going to work every single day.
For sure. We got a good question here from Shane Lynch. On live scope, I struggle with telling the difference between the head and tail of the crappie. It looks like a football. How can I improve on telling the difference? I think a lot of that has to do with the way your live scope's dialed in. And then when you get up to the fish, do you zoom it in and kind of try to get everything a little bit closer? If that fish is holding still, I'll do that. I'll have it, scanned way out. But when I get closer to that fish, 20, 30 foot, I'll scan it in just to really narrow things down. It's almost like magnifying everything. And it seems like when everybody has different ways, but it seems like when you magnify it all, there will be a point on one side. And the point on that side of the fish is the tail, the top of the tail. And it's hard to do on this camera. Everything's backwards. The tail, I'll always see a little bit of a point. And it seems like the point is always going to be that tail end. I don't know what it is for me, but that's how I kind of pick it off. And I can be wrong sometimes too. Don't think I'm going up there dropping on its head every single time. But it seems like the head, that nose has a round part on it, and the tail has a point that kind of goes up at an angle. So you have a round nose. Of course, their noses is a perfect little round shape. And even on the bottom, I can tell sometimes due to the tail and head being a little bit different. But just really tune into the detail on that fish the next time you see them, and then watch how they work, and you'll be able to figure that out.
Well, if you're going to a fish and he's suspended or on a stump or whatever, it seems to me that most of the time these fish are facing stumps.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I've seen. So normally I'm going to work the stump and then work to the other side of the fish.
Right.
And occasionally you'll see the fish actually move when it comes to things.
When they're yeah, go ahead.
Open water fish, I'm automatically spot the fish, try to ease my way up to it. And whenever I drop on it, I want to see, you'll see which way it swims. Either it's going to swim towards you or if it's going to swim away from you.
Yeah.
And at that point, you should be able to say, all right, that fish is actually swimming away from me. So, the head's going to be, opposite from you.
Like Carlos said, the fish can't swim backwards. So whichever way it's headed is definitely the head side. But if the fish is holding dead still, like in the wintertime a lot, that's where it's most important. In the spring and sometimes summer, I can't say I would pay attention to the head too much. I'm going to swing that bait straight across the top of them, and you'll figure out which way they're facing because they're going to either turn around and chase the bait or they'll just nose up and hit it when you pendulum it across. But when the fish are super skittish and spooky and holding dead still, that's when it's important you want to come straight down on its nose. But I'd say 70% of the time you'll see them running like he was talking about. When it starts swimming, just get it in front of it like that. But holding dead still, depending on what time of year, it doesn't matter as much head and tail. I get a lot of that even with the last people I took out there. How do you know which way it's facing? 9 times out of 10, I drop right down the center of that bubble. And if you're right in line with the center, one of them sides surely going to see it, and you'll kind of tell which way it's facing. But if the fish is super spooky, you'll know which way it's facing from running. So that's my sense on that.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of different guys comment, and they're saying that if you see that bright edge that's brighter than the other, it's going to be definitely in the head, and that's spot on. And appreciate those guys commenting on that thing as well. But
do you pay attention a lot? Like when you're dropping on a fish, say with clients or whatever, do you try to look where that fish is facing?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
A running fish is the hardest fish for me to catch, especially when you got people in the boat.
No doubt.
It is definitely the hardest. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on a running fish just because I feel like at that point it's spooked it for some reason or another, and it's not actually hunting. So
Yeah.
I don't really focus extremely long period of time on a running fish. And I know Grenada is a different beast, and I'm so glad that Carlos and everybody else is up there, not me.
Man, Grenada, I was saying, trying to talk the wife into moving to Mississippi. Them fish are just different all the way around. Now, they may be a little more challenging, but I was telling Brad, from the fish I'm used to here, these fish in Mississippi will bite. They bite you. And when you grab them, you better have a dang grip on them because they'll shake your wrist off. We had an absolute blast up there, and it is just home away from home when I'm out there chasing those fish. That's probably my favorite way to get after them during the spring. If the weather cooperates, there ain't much more fun than to have out there on Grenada. Yeah, Carlos said 90% of our fish run. He ain't lying. I'm telling you. I can't say if we caught 40 fish, 35 of them were on a dead run. I mean, 1.5 mile per hour.
I got a question from Lane on YouTube. He's saying he's fairly new to live scope. He has his transducer is on a pole. He would like to try the transducer on a trolling motor. Am I going to regret it on the trolling motor if I fish mainly brush piles?
Oh, man. Go ahead, brother.
You know, I'm always advised put it on the transducer on the trolling motor. It gives you a complete versatility. Now, if you're going to use exclusively spot lock, maybe so. But even when I fish brush piles in deep open water, I'm gonna keep it on my trolling motor. I'm gonna just fish downwind of that pile, and it just, in my opinion, in my experience with live scope so far, it's just too many things going on as far as if you're fishing a brush pile and you're trying to move your pole, adjust the handle on the side, or cast to them or anything else. In my opinion, that's not the way I would do it. I would leave it on the trolling motor 100%.
If there's a stiff wind, I agree totally with all that. If there's a stiff wind, you can still use spot lock because your boat will stay straight on that trolling motor and it'll keep your nose right on that brush pile. So I'm definitely with you on the transducer on the trolling motor. You won't regret it. So it'll teach you boat control a little bit better. You'll learn how to see your jig a little better, following it with the foot pedal. I think it's definitely worth a try. See how you like it. Matt Singley asked how the bite was on Grenada this week.
Yeah,
Carlos will answer that one, I'm sure, here soon. But it's looking pretty good. I think he said he's going with a guide tomorrow, so you should have a blast. I don't think there's such thing as a bad day of fishing, so you'll enjoy it.
I know I've had one or two, but 90%.
Yeah, I guess.
Justin thought that other day when he got out on the reservoir and it was well.
Man, I am telling you guys, that water can be rough. You need a barge out there. You can't just jump in an old skimp. Charles asked me where I live. I actually live near Grand Lake, Oklahoma. That's my number one lake I fish throughout the year is probably Grand Lake, Oklahoma. So look that bad boy up.
Yeah, Matt's actually he's a client of mine as well. He's going to fish with me. I think the end of this month.
Oh, sweet.
We actually went last year and we casted 2 brush piles. Now, because I enjoyed casting so much to brush piles, I did put 15-foot talons on my boat. So I locked down, and they are a game changer if you're fishing brush piles in 13.5 foot of water or less. They are a game changer. I know it's not too many other crappie boats that have talons out there right now.
Yeah.
But if you fish a lot of brush piles and if they're shallow enough, man, look into some talons. They are a game changer.
No doubt.
I got a YouTube video of me using them and how I set up on a brush pile and everything else with talons.
I'd say those would be super handy. It's like a spot lock, but even better. Trent asked tips for catching them on the run and weight. Man, that's a really good question. Reason you say weight is I'm guessing you're talking about when I'm chasing those fish. I'm using fluorocarbon line, number one, just to try to cut through that water as fast as I possibly can. And then I'm using a 1/2 ounce weight above my jig. And sometimes you can't run that super high because some of these fish out here were like 4 or 5 inches deep at Grenada. So I would run that weight somewhat close, because when you're pulling that over the fish, you can get confused of what your weight is and what your jig is. And you think your jig's right in front of its mouth, but it's your weight. So that heavy weight was number one answer for that, no doubt. Because when you see how far you are off, you want to get there pretty fast, because the fish is constantly swimming, turning in circles, everything. So you almost want to have something get there really fast. And then having back brakes was a game changer for me on that week of Grenada chasing those running fish. Yeah. Having any type of stopping system, your power pole paddles, those drift paddles, anything you can lay down to slow yourself down when those fish want to slow down or stop, because you'll just soar right over the top of them when those fish, they'll be running and then they completely stop. These fish are trained artists of running from a boat. I'm telling you, they're running circles back and forth, and I think it's from the pressure.
Another thing that I've noticed with these running fish, and I noticed a lot yesterday, I would go up to a brush pile or a stump, and automatically I would see a fish have a boat slap or whatever, but I would see a fish leave the brush pile, and I come back and I would look at my unit as far as my GPS points, and I would say, I bet that fish is going to the next brush pile up. And sure enough, I would follow back behind the fish, and all they do is jump from stump to stump to stump or brush pile to brush pile. So they wouldn't run completely out of the open. If they were sitting on brush, all they would do is turn around and jump to the next brush pile away from you.
Trent said he just put brake on his boat. That would be my number one thing on chasing those fish for sure. Open water is having a brake system.
Lee Outdoors on YouTube, he's asking any tips for wading fishing on Grenada. And I think it would probably go John Mayo. I seen he's on here. That guy right there. I think he was born on the water up there on those 4 lakes. So I'm sure John, you can key in and answer some, and Carlos as well. I'm sure there's more even Grenada guys on here. Chad Rogers.
I seen a lot of wade fishermen up there when we were fishing, and they were doing really well. Had good success. Seen some stringers full of good fish of guys that were wade fishing out there. So that was awesome to watch. I have never seen that before. Even fishing last spring, I've never seen anybody wade fishing. So I got to see it in action. I was actually fishing close to a bank, and there was a line of guys standing there wade fishing, just whacking them. And I'm thinking, what? You know, they were good males that were going up there to start everything.
Yep.
And I was like, man, that is awesome. That has to be a blast. So they were going to those little stick ups, that anything they could see, and just holding the jig in it, pretty much dead sticking it, swinging it by them, walking by them real slow.
Yeah.
One guy said he was even fishing these 4-wheeler tracks, like it was tracks where like a truck or 4-wheeler went, and he can fill it. He can fill it with his feet, these little ditches, and he'd walk the ditch with his jig, and he had several fish. So, man, if you fill little culverts or anything, I guess try dropping in it too. But I'm far from a wade fisherman.
You know, I've done it a couple times, not a whole lot, but like I said, I know some of the guys that's watching right now can give you some pointers on that. I actually did another podcast. I don't know if it was last summer or the summer before, but with a fella named John Harrison. If you know anything about crappie fishing in Mississippi, you've heard of John Harrison. We did a podcast with him on wade fishing on Grenada. He is a master fisherman as it is. So if you want some really good tips, go back through our playlist on Crappie Connection on YouTube and look for John Harrison wade fishing. You will get some great tips from that guy right there.
Oh, for sure. Chad
Dustin Harris.
Yeah.
I'm going to catch up to you a second, Dustin.
You good.
I see Dustin Harris. He's wanting to invite. I was waiting on my invite from him to go catch these monster specks that he's got in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Also, Chad Wright, he's a buddy of mine that lives here on the reservoir that fishes probably just as much as me, but he's the guy that won the ACT this past weekend here. Chad, I would love to see how you caught those fish. I've got a pretty good idea how you caught them, but I would love to see you post that in the comments as far as your today's bite. It was super rough this weekend for anybody that was down here fishing the res. My hat's off to you because it was a rough joker. So congratulations to Chad Wright for winning ACT this weekend. He's got $5,000 in his pocket.
From one fish. That's what I'm talking about. What was it? 243, I think, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that doesn't show anything to do with the way that lake can fish, because I'm telling you, if it was a calm wind day, it would have took a 3-pounder. that lake has some giants in it. It's just unfishable with the stout north wind, and that just so happens what they had on that tournament day there. So,
Carl,
the size of those snakes will make you think twice. I never did see any snakes at Grenada, but I was wondering about alligators. Is there any gators out there on Grenada? I'm sure somebody would answer that one. I was thinking, man, these guys are crazy out here waiting that gator eat their leg off.
they don't have any gators compared to the reservoir. We have gators on the reservoir.
See, I don't know why there'd be gators there and not an hour and a half away. There's got to be some in there, surely. Have something tugging on your dang string or a fish.
Carl Dearman.
Carlos said no gators. That's crazy.
Yeah. What's the best live scope for the money? I have a 14-foot John boat. John, Carl, I would say it depends on what technique you're going to try to really do with your boat.
I got this one, brother.
If you're wanting to cast to them a lot, I would say the 34. If you're wanting to single pole fish more and look at fish that are 20 foot or less, my advice is the 32. I just did a video on some settings and the pollen and everything else that I posted, I think Sunday night. And you get to actually see the picture, the 32 and the 34 on my boat. I still actually got them on. But for me, in my opinion, and what I've used it for, and some other guys can chime in as well, Dustin can.
Yeah.
I would prefer, if I'm fishing 20 foot or less, the 32. If I'm going to fish past that 20-foot mark, I'm going to say the 34.
Man, I would start. So he's asking live scope as in, I think, the whole bundle. And there's a really good bundle, the 1022 bundle. Man, I bought my first live scope setup, and it was a 1022 with everything. And that's got the knob on it and all that. That way you got the 10-inch screen, because it's the 9-inch screen can be hard on the eyeballs. And I seen someone ask me a question about the difference between 9 and 12-inch screen. I'll have to look back, but that 10-inch 1022 is a really good system. That's probably one of my favorites. I think the whole bundle was like 2,700 or something like that, and that was the smallest I think I would get away with trying to be super successful with. Now, don't be afraid to go down to a 9-inch. I know a few guys that have them and tear the fish plumb up with them, and you're going to save a lot of money going with the 9-inch. But you don't want to buy it and then think you needed something bigger and regret it. So if it was me personally, and you're going to spend the money, I would just go ahead and spend it right and get that 10-inch at least, a 10-inch screen.
Yeah. Tony Walters, a very good question, and I know we're going to hear some more. He actually messaged me and asked me this, I think, night before last, the same question, and I answered on one side, but I'm going to answer it again for Tony, and I'm going to get Dustin to answer it, Carlos, and whoever else that would be considered a pro. But he's been watching tournament guys and seen all of the pros fish out of fiberglass boats. Do you see a vintage versus aluminum boat? Dustin fishes out of aluminum boat.
Yeah.
But what's your take on that?
Yeah, I fish out of aluminum boat when I'm guiding. And I don't think I've fished 1 or 2 tournaments with the aluminum boat during the tournament. But I usually jump in Ken's fiberglass Skeeter. Due to, first of all, it runs a lot quicker. We get places a lot easier, and it'll take big water a lot better. Like we can go out there when it's 15, 20 mile per hour wind and not feel like we're going to sink the boat. When you jump in mine, you get wet. It's a rough rider. You're scared you're going to put holes in the weld or tear it up, so it's a lot rougher. That's where I would say my number one thing is I'm so much more comfortable in a fiberglass boat. And then on top of fishing, it's so heavy, it takes the big water better. Your boat slaps way down. The aluminum just seems like it's a barge coming through, big bull nose slapping the water. And it seems like a stealthier boat was fiberglass for me. So that's probably number one reason is it's a lot quieter, runs big water a lot better. And then you can go super fast. And with the brakes that we have on it, just a lot smoother system all the way around. Takes heavier weight. So,
I would consider what body of water you're looking at fishing at. Fiberglass for me, it sits down flatter in the water when it comes, just like Dustin was saying, as far as any kind of roll on the lake. It sits flatter in the water. And if you see, from Caps and Coleman years ago fishing out of a 522, that's probably, in my mind, in my opinion, probably the best all around crappie boat ever designed and made was a Ranger 522. But they're getting to be kind of like a little diamond to find out there now. Because that boat set really low in the water, really flat, didn't have a lot of bounce because of the length and the weight of it. And I would look at, aluminum, if I was going to fish a lot of river systems, is fine and great. There's a lot of great manufacturers out there. But I think if you're going to fish big open water, lakes, reservoirs, I would try to go for fiberglass just because they're going to hold up a lot better in these big waves, especially what we experience out here on the res.
No doubt. Can you see that comment of Crappie? Someone said Crappie something that asked about the 9 to 12 inch screens having a hard time catching keepers. Did you see that one?
Yes. Okay.
What was his name?
Crappie Wayne.
Okay, Crappie Wayne. I seen your question there, brother. Sorry we got kind of off sidetrack, but I would say what lake you're fishing is the most important part there. And if you're catching a lot of small fish, what's a keeper fish there? So we got to start with what lake you're fishing. Sorry if I lost you there. That was a little while ago, but we got you. That 12-inch screen got to make a huge difference from a 9. I bet he feels a lot better with that.
My question to Crappie Wayne on that is what transducer is he running? Are you running the 34 or a 32? That's the other thing, kind of with the 34. I would pull up and look at a fish and be like, all right, this is a donkey. Yeah. And what I mean by donkey is a slab. Drop down on the
names for him, ain't there?
Yeah, it's a lot. I love them. And I would drop down on the fish, catch it, and it would be 11-inch fish. And I was like, man, I swear to God, I thought that fish was going to be a 15, 16 fish.
Okay, he said Oologah. So, yeah, he's here close. Man, so what do you – so Oologah doesn't have a size limit, I don't believe. So what do you – I guess those piles of fish you're sitting on, if you sit on them long enough, you should pull out some good ones. But I know they sit on those standing trees a lot. There's big schools going everywhere. If you keep working on them, maybe it sounds a little crazy, but whatever size of bait you're using, if you upsize it a little bit, you can run through those smaller ones, and the bigger ones will kind of separate themselves hitting those bigger jigs if you run into a big school out there. Those slab hunters are really good ones to use, the full slab hunters. You can drag them across, and it seems like the bigger fish will come out of those schools of smaller fish. So try upsizing just a little bit and see if that makes a difference. You won't catch as many fish, but you'll catch a little bit bigger fish when you do get a bite. But that 32 works pretty well. He said he has a 32 transducer. So, man, you're set. 12-inch screen with the 32. That's a money setup right there. You shouldn't have no problem. Just keep looking, keep moving. If you catch a lot of small ones, go somewhere else. Go to a new creek, new mouth of the cove, and keep looking, because eventually you'll find them, no doubt. If you're catching small ones, you'll catch the big ones somewhere.
Ricky's asking a question about a hand remote rather than foot control for live scope. And they all kind of made fun of me last week because I wouldn't advise it to anybody that is wanting a live scope with a foot pedal to do what I do. And I have to take my shoes off and wear a sock, wear 2 socks. Big thank you to Ken Robinson of Power Crappie. He was here last week, and we were talking about it one night. We went out to eat, and he was like, hey, Brad, I got you something. And he pulled out a big pair of wader socks for me. He went and bought because I'm sure he knew my foot was frozen.
Oh, I guarantee it. Yeah.
I can't imagine trying to live scope open water fish and chase them down with a hand remote. It's just, they're too darty, too fast to keep up with a hand remote. So it would be a really disadvantage if you were trying to do that with a
no doubt about
remote in your hand.
Tim Smith said he just changed from a 9 to a 12. Gigantic difference and not bad on eyes. That is no doubt. It is a huge difference from a 9-inch to a 12-inch. And then Bob said, look at your grid size on the size of fish. For sure, check your grid size. But if you're in big schools of fish like Oologah or like a lot of fish on timber, it's really hard to decipher through those fish. So sometimes, but if you're chasing single fish, for sure, you can grid size them and get used to, okay, catch that fish and realize that was a 10-inch fish. Look what it looked like on your square there, and then kind of size them up. But when you see a big one just single, you'll definitely know. It'll have that wow factor.
Michael Drake, to answer your questions, I don't know of any fishing license that cover multiple states. That would be pretty nice if it did. I know for Dustin and everybody else that travels a lot.
You dang right. That would be
I don't
slick.
believe there is, though.
He might be on to something there.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you never know. Let me come on down. Hey, Chase, what's going on, brother? Alligators in Enid. Austin Whittle. Let me put that one up there. Casting them or dead sticking them? When do you do one or the other? I love this question.
That's a real good question. Well, man, I love dead sticking them if I can get up to them and get on top of them and they're not running real bad. And if the water's clear, the clearer the water is when I'm casting. And then especially, I like to, in summertime, I like to cast a brush pile like Brad does, but I say pitching because we get within like 10 foot maybe, and just underhand toss it out there. But casting wise, the only time I've really used casting and it has worked unbelievably is at Darbone, when the fish were super spooky and the water was clear enough when you dragged it over and they were aggressive enough. But you have to have a lot of things line up just right for casting to work really good. The fish have to be aggressive enough. You have to land your jig, keep it above them and have the casting part down. And then your water clarity. So you have to have aggressive fish and clear water, and that sets up for a perfect casting setup. And then blackfish is a fun fish to cast for too. Seems like it works a little bit better.
Austin, my opinion on that question is, if I feel like fish are aggressive, like Dustin was talking about, and they'll chase down a bait.
Yeah.
And number two factor is if they're spooky. It seems to me like in the summertime, I would come up to brush piles and try to dead stick them, and I would actually spook that school of fish sitting on brush piles or stumps, especially when it was slick calm, those crappie fishing heaven days. If I got too close to them, you might catch one or two fish off the pile, and they're liable to be 50 or 60 or even 100 fish sitting there, but they would spook and they would shut down. Not necessarily leave, but exactly. Just shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So in turn, I started backing off, and I like to get between 30 and 40 feet away from them.
Wow.
Then I would cast to them. And then you could sit there as long as you wanted to and catch fish and never spook the fish. And actually, if you would catch one or two, it kind of actually excite that school of fish in that brush pile or that stump. So that's when I would go to casting. If I'm gonna have to dead stick them, is when I'm gonna have to hold a bait, extremely close to them. If I'm gonna have to present that bait right on their nose, dead sticking is gonna win every single day.
That's
Chad Wright. This is the champ. We're gonna show what the champ did, Chad. They were short biting really bad, lost 2 4-pounders in a row Saturday morning, ended up downsizing to a 32nd ounce small profile jig. What color? With a 1 ounce weight on top. Getting the light jig in front of them was a struggle in the wind and waves. I bet it was.
You were actually talking about them short striking. You were following it, not hitting it. So
I saw that last week as well. I seen the same thing with those 2 1/4 plus fish. Is they would come up short strike and go back down. Some of them wouldn't even leave that spot. They would short strike it, and eventually leave, or someone would just bury down further in the cover. So my hat's off to you, Chad. I know I was thinking all day Saturday is like, man, I know them guys on the lake right now are catching, you know what? And I was in my shop playing around with this background, as you see. So
Tim said, what link do you use to cast? Tim, my favorite is the 7-foot dingo. Huckabee rods for sure. For casting the 6.5-foot Ninja is a monster too. Both of those rods you can't go wrong with.
I'm gonna use the B&M. It's the 40th anniversary spinner reel combo that they've got out. I've been using it for the last couple months, and it can smack them down and put them in the boat as well pretty well.
Yeah, that's a good time. When the casting's on, it is a blast. And then do you guys see a difference in using braid versus fluoro and muddy Oklahoma water? Good question, Dawn. I'd say whatever your preference is, it works. I've never seen line actually pay that much dividend. Besides, just the reason I like fluoro a little bit better now is because I can do everything just a little bit faster, cut through the water, and then if there is just for any reason an issue with the line, wrapping around your tip or things that you struggle with, I feel like fluoro helps me better. But you get all kinds of different lines out now that people love and work with. So.
Jeffrey, just started using electronics. Any tips that you might have with locating fish and identifying what I'm looking for? It kind of comes back to, what season it is. If I'm looking for brush piles or I'm looking for stumps, if I can see fish sitting on the stump or find a stump and I see the little dots above the stump on either side scan or 2D or down scan, typically in my mind, in my opinion, that's going to be crappie. That's what I'm always going to identify as a crappie sitting on a stump. It also tells me more than likely those fish that are sitting highest in the water column is the one I want to target first. And I see it a lot still every day is those fish, if they're sitting on top of a stump,
they're going to eat
2 or 3 feet above it. That's
Yeah.
right. They're going to smoke that bait when they see it. So,
for sure.
Ask me what kind of units are you running? That might even help me and to help you out with that question a little bit more.
For sure.
That's a very good question.
No doubt.
Trying to catch up with all these questions. I appreciate the comment. Appreciate those 10K Crappie Connection comments. Keep them rolling out, guys.
Big shout out to Bobby Garland baits, guys. No doubt. I've been using them forever now, but if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here doing this video. So appreciate Bobby Garland baits. And we got a little bait of the week, actually, that we ain't stacked up yet. Come on now, Brad. We're slacking.
Man, I got you, buddy. I got you. It's coming on the screen right now. You know, buddy.
Oh, and you got that surprise for me, too. You're going to have to.
I got that surprise for you.
Yeah. I got a feeling I know what it is. You set me up, is what you did. Yep. You set
Would I do that?
Yeah, you would.
Really, would I do that?
Yeah, you would. I learned. Yeah. I already know. What's coming.
I like it. And you might be right.
Oh, I guarantee it. I'm looking at the old stack over here and I'm thinking, I know what it is.
Yep. Today's bait of the week is going to be the Bobby Garland Minnow Minder. This is a bait that's been out, I don't know, for a long time now, and it's a very versatile bait. And I'm going to show it up here, and Dustin's got some packages with some colors.
Oh, yeah.
This is the horsefly, which everybody that knows fishing in Mississippi, you got to have the orange chartreuse on here.
Have to.
But one of the differences about this bait, it's got a split tail and a cavity on the inside of the bait. And while Dustin's talking a minute about his, I'll go get a hook and show you. But this bait was designed that you can put a regular, let's say a number 2 Aberdeen hook through the center of it, and the nose of your minnow will fit in that cavity, snugged up against the hook.
Tipping it.
That's how this bait was designed. Now, it's extremely versatile as well. I use them a lot whenever I'm dead sticking or, vertical jigging. It's a great bait for that action as well, just because it's got these split tails. And my top 5 colors, which I get to go before Dustin because I said it. So
yeah,
hopefully that screwed him up.
Yeah, whatever.
But probably one of the really cool colors that I really like is silverfish.
Oh, coffee counter if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I knew we was going to hear some crying. That's the silverfish. This is Old Faithful. It's a black and chartreuse, and that is Black Widow.
Ooh, crappie killer.
Mm-hmm. Another really good one, and I would say my number 1 bait color for this week so far is a blue chartreuse, and that's Blue Dauber. It's just a blue chartreuse. It's a lot of chartreuse.
Yeah, Blue Dauber.
Now, this is a res great color bait, and the downside of it is it's got some pink in it, but crappie actually like it very well. But use caution is the Firefly, and it's just like a dark purple pink tail. And like I showed you guys a second ago, would be the horsefly, just another really
Brandon Thomas asked if Bobby Garland still makes the butter belly color. I actually was just in the dang shop.
The baby shed.
Where they make those. And in Baby Shed, they do make butter belly because there was dang loads of them. You remember that? Well, no, you wasn't there on that one. You wasn't there. That was just here recently. But yeah, they still making butter belly, no doubt. It looks so good. I told it looks like butterscotch to me. But I'm gonna start I've got 3 Mano Minders here, color, and all 3 of these from Grenada, 5-star. They work, guys. White and chartreuse, kill them, no doubt. White and chartreuse and any Bobby Garland works great, but these Minnow Minders are killer with tipping with a minnow as well. But I also putting a niblet or nibbles, the crappie nibbles in there will also work. Kind of like you said, the minnow will fit in there. You can slap you 2 or 3 of those baits in there. That's a monkey milk. And then last but not least, Brad the copier, silverfish. And these are muddy water killers, guys. Hopefully y'all can see that. Slick too.
That love bug?
Do what?
What was that last color?
That's silverfish.
Oh, you copied me.
Yeah. Oh, whatever, bro. Whatever.
Another really thing that I did set up Dustin for this.
Here we go.
I will admit that. But it's really good for everybody that sees Dustin. He's going to be at You Follow this week.
Oh, yeah. Headed there tomorrow morning, actually.
Headed there tomorrow morning. He'll be there through Saturday, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you run across Dustin, I have given a lot of hugs over the last 2 weeks, which I appreciate every single one of you guys watching and commenting every single night.
Especially the hugs.
I have been giving some hugs out, but I think it's time for we show Dustin some love.
Yeah. So it's my turn, guys. I've got dang stacks of hoodies. Let me just show you this real quick.
Yeah. You know, he needs some love. He's been away from home for a while.
Crappie Connection hats.
So I gave him a lot of Crappie Connection hats, some hoodies.
But I'm not, you can't just walk up to me and say, hey, I know you got hats and hoodies. What do you think? I'm talking a neck to neck hug. I have to feel your neck skin against my neck, and you'll get what you want.
Either there or a bear hug or anything like that really works well.
Yeah, a good lower hip squeeze in the back hips there. I've got good love handles. I've worked on these love handles a long time. Good squeeze in there. You guys.
He's been missing out on the love from the Crappie Connection Brotherhood from today's bike. So if you see Dustin, make sure you give him one of those big giant bear hugs.
Or at least I knew that was. Gosh, here I was excited with all this, and you set me plumb up. I should have known better. John Gathright says, bring me one. Actually, John, I'll be headed to Millwood. I will bring you one. That'll be a blast. Can't wait. I've seen you've been smacking them around today. I saw those fish you caught. Good job on that, brother.
I got a question from Greg on YouTube. Last week, Greg, I did a video with the B&M channel, the Eat Fish Live, I believe it is. And I did a long line of video, and everybody thought I was probably going to get skunked that day. But I noticed that week that, like I was saying earlier about those fish pulled up, and that guy right there did.
I was trolling beside him, guys. I got to tell you this right now because I was not much of a believer in this pulling, dragging a bunch of lines back. I'm like, what is this crazy guy doing? They're shooting a YouTube video. So I'm trolling next to him in case they maybe need a fish for me to catch if they need me to show them my fish on camera, because Lord knows they weren't going to catch them pulling. How many rods went off at the same time? 6 of them?
Man.
5 or 6 rods went off at the same time. I thought, that must be a school of white bass. Freaking crappie. Unbelievable. They tore them up and gained my respect big time on the pulling side of things. Brad is a first ballot Hall of Famer on legendary crappie fishermen. Don't let him lie.
It goes back. Kirby actually said that was the fastest crappie he has ever caught on camera was the other day.
That was insane.
He asked before we're going to get out, hey, we're going to catch any, and I said, man, I believe so. I've got a good little pattern set up in my mind. I didn't try it beforehand. I got it that morning. I just knew what I seen the fish doing at that point, and I knew I could long line. One of the biggest advantages when it comes to long line versus spider rigging is, one, I get to cover a whole lot of water extremely quick. I can go 1.2 and catch fish, as Hank would say, from dusk to dawn. It's actually from dawn to dusk. I can catch crappie from dawn to dusk pulling jigs, especially if they're aggressive.
No doubt. Crappie Wayne asked where we're putting in it. You follow real quick, guys. The weigh-in is Friday. If I see you there, I'll hook you up. Good hug and a good hat, maybe a hoodie. But come to the weigh-in Friday. It'll be like 3 or 4 o'clock, and it will be. Oh man, someone will comment on here or message me, and I'll tell you because I forgot the name of it.
Give him the hug.
Yo, you got to have the hug.
Reggie Hillman, which is a cousin of mine, he's asking me, when fish are in a school brush top or cover and you catch several and you throw them back in that top or leave.
Oh, he's saying, well, the fish go back and tell on you, I think. That's what he's talking about. You know, Brian Young always told me he would bring a bucket beside him, and if he caught some off a pile, if they were blackfish, he would put them in that bucket because he thinks if he throws them back, it's going to ruin it.
That's very interesting.
He might have been jacking with me, but I think he was pretty serious.
You know, a lot of times I think it excites the school whenever you catch a fish or two out of a pile.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll catch shorts, throw them back.
I always say I feel like they give something off when they're feeding. They give some type of something off because it seems like you finally get one to bite, you'll catch 3 or 4 right after that. And it's like almost they left something. I don't know.
You know, it's kind of like me. I think if I get in a room with a bunch of people eating desserts, especially snacking on stacked food, and I'm not even hungry. Of course, this is the boy in me. And I see them eating, you know, a piece of chocolate cake or whatever it might be. I'm going to have to go over there and get me a piece too. So I kind of think it actually kind of helps some. But
I forgot to tell you guys about the pulling expertise I got to see. I actually took my live scope back to all these rods he had, I don't know, 100 plus.
You asked me a question first.
Yeah, what was it?
You said how?
Yeah, I said, how deep you fishing? Because them fish are setting about 12 foot. He said, oh, I should be dragging about 12 foot. I'm like, okay. So I take my trolling motor, went back there, and I mean, he was a long ways because what is 100 plus foot out there away from the boat? And I look at these baits come by. If this 12-foot line was right here, every one of those jigs was just tickling that 12-foot line. So this guy is a master shifu on the dang long line, and I'm telling you. I was definitely amazed. It's something to see, guys, especially if you guys are up there and whatever time he likes to do it best, I'd be signing it up because you're sitting there relaxing, don't got to be doing much, and just grab the dang thing. It's like trolling for striper, but you're catching good eating fish. I don't know how that gets much better.
When a cold front hits and they sink to the bottom and they are still down here, crappie crane, is there a live scope recommendation as far as settings to keep them from disappearing? Chad Wright, he got in a boat with me 2 weeks ago and kind of even helped me out with this. And Jerry Hancock mentioned it before on the show on today's bite. But the best thing to do, if you see a fish and you see him go down to the bottom and you can still see a little portion of him, at that very moment that you see that fish get down in that water, hit pause on your screen of your unit and adjust your settings. And I'll be the first to admit I didn't do it before these two guys, but now I can really see the advantage of doing it. So as soon as you see that fish go down and you can barely see him, hit pause on your screen and adjust your settings until you can see it a little bit better.
Yeah. No doubt. I appreciate it, John. We're going to try to keep this up every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. I appreciate y'all with the questions. I was looking forward to it, finally getting home and getting to talk with y'all. We finally had a run where we didn't have problems with dang internet. I knew once I got over there to Brad, he's going to drop the ball on me. So I came here and kept everything tied up at home. Don't you guys worry now.
Michael Drake, I would love to come to Texas. That's actually on my to-do list.
Oh, my gosh. They are beating them up at Texas right now. Giants. No doubt about it.
Dennis Martin, I'm trying to get these questions. I don't want to leave anybody out. I know we're about at our hour mark, and that's where we try to stay at night. But jig color preference on jig heads, pink, chartreuse, orange, or what? Do you have a preference on?
I'm always going to start with the pink head. I love the pink head, but I don't like a pink jig. So that's kind of funny. I'm not a big fan of anything to do with pink on my jig, but the pink head I like. It goes with a lot of colors. A pink head with this thing, silverfish minnow minder, is a killer color combination, and a chartreuse head. I love a chartreuse and pink head. Let me slap this on you and just show you guys what's up with it now. Since you got me stuck.
You know, for me, myself, I'm always like to offset a color difference.
Do you see, guys, look at mine. You see the difference? If you was a crappie, which one you chomping? Huh? You know what I'm saying? Look at that. Look at the tail.
We know already. But I like to use a different color jig head compared to the body. I have seen one time that I didn't, or the fish didn't like it as much, but I think it's probably just in my head. But
John Mayo said Lake Fork is on his bucket list. John Mayo, no doubt about it. If there's one lake to catch 3-pounders right now, there's a lake called Big Creek Lake. It's by Lake Cooper in Texas. They're catching 21 pounds to 22 pounds of fish and 7 fish. A buddy of mine just went there and caught like 6 or 7 3-pounders out of it. It's a little bitty lake. Oh, dude, it's unbelievable. Giant fish. So I hope to go pay it a visit soon. But it's called Big Creek. They call it Little Cooper. It's by Cooper Lake. When you look it up in Texas, go across the road. It's a little mud hole lake. There's some timber in it. But here is the chartreuse head too. So see, guys, that's that's a killer right there. Chartreuse. I like a chartreuse tail and a chartreuse head. That's a killer there. That's one of my favorite muddy water colors there.
You know, I like, I'm going to go back to Jeffrey. He's on the YouTube. He asked me a question. When longlining, do you follow the creek channel or the deepest ledge? And that goes back to the time of the year. You know, if I'm going to use traditional, and I'll take a step back in my playbook, pre-live scope deals. But if I see fish suspended, whatever depth they're at is where I'm going to target. People ask me all the time, do I record a track down a ledge and stay on that ledge? And the answer is always going to be, and always has been, is no. I like to pull on top of the ledge and then pull down it. Pull on top of the ledge and pull down it. Pull away from the ledge and then pull on the very top of it. So I don't like sit and record on a recordable trolling motor just because I like going back and forth and experimenting to see if there's really that much difference. Some days, depending on what body of water, ledges are by far key, but I always like to control my boat and never record a path. Probably went on to even to another subject with that one, but
yeah, I was going to say, I noticed you were doing that same thing when you were pulling, just checking different sides of the ledge. And when you found a good place, you just stick with it.
Yep. Billy Hartfield from YouTube, he is 6'4", and he is very good at giving bear hugs. I cannot wait, Billy, to hear how that goes for Dustin.
That will be a bear hug to me, brother. I'm 6'3", so you're gonna probably have me on that, but I can give a good squeeze.
Do I fish the river of the res? I think you're talking about the Pearl River on the upper side. I do occasionally, especially if it's high winds, you know, especially in the springtime, you got to plan your day, or I plan my days rather, on whatever the lake is going to be the calmest. So if it's extremely windy coming out of the south, I'm going to probably go upriver, especially a southwest, straight south. I'm going to go upriver, except for tomorrow. I'm going to go south. But yeah, I do. I'm trying to catch up with everybody.
You guys are all fired up. It's about my bedtime. Everybody's fired up with these questions.
I mean, Derek Martin, what's up, guys? Top Hat Jigs.
Going up the river tomorrow at Ratliff.
I might have to get the boat on you one day, Charles, and you show me a thing up about Ratliff.
Charles, good luck tomorrow. I hope you whack them.
John Mayo says it's always windy on the res.
Oh my gosh, John, don't even get me started, brother. Hey, if you come up here, don't even think about getting out of the wind. Just ask Brad a few places maybe that he can hide from it, but there's no way around it. What was the wind we were supposed to? I think it was 6 miles per hour, and we're talking. I was riding these waves and water. I mean, I might as well took a shower. It was bad. I showered with Ross Barnett. She gave me a shower before I even got to the spot.
Seth Baxter, after big rain, is it worth going up in the muddy creek, or should you stay in the clear water of the main lake?
Oh man, I would definitely go to the clear water of the main lake, partner. That's just what I do here on Grand. It seems like if you follow that clear water line, fish are 2 times more aggressive. If it's a fresh rain, the fish will scatter and get real finicky, and I struggle with them when it gets real muddy and when it's supposed to be on the clear stain side and it gets super muddy. So I would be chasing that clear water, no doubt, depending on what lake.
All right, I'm gonna go back. I see a good question, Seth. I'm gonna go back and answer that thing too. I'm gonna look for current eddies. So it could be up in the upper portion, but if I can find a big current break, I seen somebody asked if you got introduced to the warfare hole, but that's an area that in the wintertime it creates a big current eddy. So if I can fish an area that has a big current eddy, I'll fish in the muddy water. You might have to slow down and you might have to use some bigger profile baits or what have you. But if I can find an area that's pushing the fish out of the current, I'm going to pick that current eddy even in the muddy water.
Yep. Bobby Mann said about like one of those 6 mile per hour east wind on Grenada. What's funny is it was 6 mile per hour east wind, and I'm telling you, it was 25 north. I don't know what's wrong with their weathermen up there, down there, guys. There's something wrong with the Mississippi weathermen. We got to get that figured out. We ought to sign a petition, GoFundMe, something to where we can get the weather figured out. Because I'm with John. It's white capping when the wind ain't blowing. And man, it's rough out there.
Yeah, I mean,
you guys are just used to it too. That's what's crazy. He's like, it's going to be rough. Well, just follow me. You'll want to follow me on this path. I'm like, all right. What do you mean rough? We were putting in a place out of the wind completely. We go under this bridge. We get out there. I'm like, oh no. He said, how fast did your boat go? I said, not fast enough. You let that thing eat. I'm like, oh, I'm seeing the water flying around. This ain't good. This ain't good. Too early for this.
Yeah. I mean, it gets rough.
And guiding wise, you got to be on the fly, willing to, or be able to put things together so fast. Because when you plan on no wind or an east wind, and it's coming straight out of the north 15 mile per hour, all your plans went right out the window. So there's a respect I got for you guys out there in Mississippi. I learned that the last 2 weeks guiding. Don't even try to plan what you're going to do that morning until you get out and see the water. Keep your head on a swivel and all kinds of open to all kinds of ideas. I learned that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get set and say, well, I'm going to fish this lake, and no matter what, the ultimate boss for sure.
Yeah, I get like that out here, certain winds, I'll be like, oh, I can go in these coves, this and that. And then usually I can stick to that. But in Mississippi, no, because they might call for an east wind and it's northwest. I'm telling you, they're wild with it. So hold on.
Another thing that I want to cover real quick, that it's not quite available yet. We should have some proofs this week on some new Crappie Connection hats. Kind of teamed up with the guys with Crappie Forever. Love what those guys are doing for the fishing, the crappie fishing world. So I guess Hunter and I, more or less with a Crappie Connection, we decided we're going to help those guys out, and they're going to help us out by producing our Crappie Connection gear in the future. You'll be able to order it as soon as it's available, and I will make sure everybody on here knows that Crappie Forever will be producing the Crappie Connection gear in the future. Like I said before last week and every night, I don't want to be a dead horse to you guys, but we need your help. I think, and I'll tell you at the current moment where we're at on subscriptions, my goal or our goal, we're at 7338 on YouTube. I want 10,000 subscribers. That is, everybody wants a 3-pounder right now.
Yeah, you
wants 10,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
So if you have not subscribed, I cannot ask you enough. Take 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and hit that subscribe. My goal, I would love to hit 10,000 by let's say the end of April. I even give you another month.
The end of April.
Help us out. Help us grow. Can I thank this company behind us enough for putting this idea out to us and really pushing Dustin and myself to say, hey, look, this is what people want. This is what people need. We want you guys to produce it. And they're standing behind us, just like right now they're behind me. And they're behind the crappie fishing industry and you guys out there fishing every day. Believe it. So cannot thank those guys enough.
And thank you guys so much for all the questions. And hopefully next Tuesday we'll have done with the cold fronts and end with the spring fronts.
Right wind.
Dang right.
Look forward to next Tuesday night. Cannot thank you guys enough getting on here every single night. Want to apologize for last Tuesday night. Internet was like a nightmare. I think
That's the past, Brad. You're not supposed to bring up the past. It's
well,
over. It's gone.
It is. I got Dustin out of my hair.
Yeah.
He's gone. The internet's working great without Dustin.
Yeah. Hey guys.
I don't know.
Mississippi hospitality is 5-star too. So y'all, yeah, good time out there. Appreciate Brad very much and appreciate you guys.
Subscribe, hit your notifications, tell your buddies, help Crappie Connection, help today's bike grow. Thank you for everybody coming on.
Holla.
7
p.m. next Tuesday.
Dustin needs hugs. I want to see how many Dustin hugs he gets this week.
He wants to see hats everywhere. Come on with
hats everywhere. And
hey, I got hoodies. I mean, dude, I think you gave me a 4X hoodie. So, hey, we got all sizes around here.
I'm covering all the
Yeah.
Till next time, you got Brad Chappell.
Keep it crappie. Dustin, you holla.
Dustin what?
McDaniel.
All right. Holla.
Yeah. What's up?